if she doesn't feel safe with him, and especially doesn't respect if he's let her down too many times, she is going to control. Again, to feel safe. That's what she's after. That's what it's rooted in. So I always tell men, if your wife, if you feel like she's become controlling or critical or complaining or naggy, stop and look her in the eye kindly, and just, maybe even and hold her face in your hands. Look her in the eye and just say, honey, what is it that you need? What is it you're afraid of?
Welcome to the Danielle Hage Podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Hage. Danielle is my mother-in-law and Nini to my 3 girls. She is pastor, speaker, and founder of Dynamic Traits. She has over 40 years experience in family and marriage relationships. She's been married to Steve Hage for 43 years, who travels the world preaching the gospel, and together they pastor a church in Laguna Niguel, California. So, Danielle, I just wanted to say congratulations. You have been podcasting and creating content for a year.
Yes.
And that's incredible. So
we started 1 year ago this month.
Yeah.
Went by so fast.
It's
Happy
gone
anniversary.
fast. Yes. So those of you who have been with us for a year, thanks for being here. Those of you who are new, we're so glad you're here. And today we're going to talk about controlling men and women and really getting to the root of that.
Yes.
So let's start with the women.
Okay. So the reason that I wanted to talk about this is because I had posted a reel probably almost a year ago, and it got so many views and so much interaction and lots of comments. And I thought, I probably should go a little bit more into depth. And this reel said that that a masculine man will never be attracted to a controlling, critical woman. And the men are saying, yes, that's true. And the women are pushing back a little bit. So I want to just remind you that the Bible also says in Proverbs that it's better to live in the wilderness. And some translations, it says it's better to live in the desert. It's better to live in the attic than to live in a house with a contentious, angry wife. And I thought about that. Why doesn't it say a contentious, angry husband? Why is it the wife? Could it be that God knew that this would happen with wives? And I think it could go both ways. There are some very contentious, controlling, angry men too, and we'll get to that. But first, we're going to start with the women. Okay. So I was, one of the comments that I'd gotten from a woman, she DM'd me and she said, my husband keeps sending me this reel over and over again. You are ruining the lives of women by posting this stuff. And so then she went on to say, I have begged him to stop drinking and he refuses, which is why he's sending the reel saying, don't control me. Don't try to control me. So here's the thing. We cannot control anybody. We can only control ourselves. So for that particular woman, if she is, he feels controlled because she's wanting him to change. She wants him to stop doing something or start doing something different. And whenever a man feels like a woman's happiness is dependent upon him changing, he's going to feel controlled. Okay. So for her, in that particular situation, she gets to decide what she will accept and what she's willing to live with and what she isn't. That's her choice. And if he is not going to stop drinking, and if his drinking has gotten out of hand, if it's become destructive either to himself or to the family, to her, to the children, maybe his job, whatever, she can, because she can't control him, she can't stop him, she can tell him how his drinking makes her feel, and I would imagine to say it makes her feel unsafe. Because usually when we want to control something, we're trying to make ourselves feel safer, because control is rooted in fear. There's a fear going on, which makes you, anybody, a man or a woman, try to control the circumstance or a person because they're afraid and they're trying to get to a place of safety. So for that particular woman, married to the person that's drinking, all that she can do is tell how she feels. If he ignores that or chooses to continue drinking, then the only other thing she can do is adjust her proximity. And I'm not saying to leave in order to change somebody or to manipulate somebody, but sometimes we need to step away, and number one, to protect ourselves, maybe to protect our children, and so that we can heal, so that you step away, you take some time so that you can get clear on what to do. And then the person that you left, now they are by themselves. This gives them time to think. They may change, they may not. That's their choice. You have no bearing on that, what they decide to do. If they choose, for example, to keep drinking, then that's when you get to decide, do I want to stay in this relationship?
Yeah.
Because if they're not taking how you feel into consideration, they're not taking responsibility or accountability in the relationship, that's not a partnership. That's not a partnership. You're on your own. So, where else do we want to go with this? Oh, one more quick thing. I also got another comment from another woman saying, your videos seem to trigger me a lot. And so she DM'd me, and we had a little conversation over just text messaging. And what it came out to be is that she was in a very unhealthy relationship. And she ended up ending the relationship. And she said, now when I see your videos, I can hear them better. Mm-hmm. Because, see, she was trying to apply my information to an unhealthy man. Yeah. And the stuff I'm talking about, I'm not talking about people who are narcissists, psychopaths, sociopaths. I'm talking to just your regular, normal people. Mm-hmm. We're all broken. Yeah. We all have issues at some level. But I'm talking about, generally speaking, for the most part, a normal, healthy person. Okay. Mm-hmm. So yes, I am not trying to convince women to stay in relationships that aren't good for them, that are destructive. All right. And sometimes, women, men too, we need to draw boundaries. We need to say, here's the line. Here's what works for me, and here's what doesn't. And here's what I'm willing to live with. And here's what I will never be willing to live with. That is a non-negotiable. And if your partner does not care about your boundary or respect your boundaries or care about what you need, then again, it's not a partnership.
You can't control them into changing.
You really can't.
Yeah.
You can't. Although we want to, and we were talking about earlier how I think a lot of women stay and they stay in bad relationships for a number of reasons. Number one, because they have hope. They don't want to break up the family, and they keep hoping that they'll change, that somebody will change. And if I just do this, and they, sometimes women contort themselves into pretzels, trying to be everything their partner wants them to be, but he still isn't changing. Okay. And so I think they stay because maybe they have low self-esteem. They don't know their worth. Yeah. They don't know their value. They think maybe they deserve this mistreatment, this abuse. They think that maybe the bad relationship is safer than being alone, because some women feel like, at least I'm in a relationship, whether it's good or bad, at least I'm in a relationship because I definitely don't want to be alone. And there again, I feel like those women don't have enough value. They don't value themselves enough to know that they'd be okay by themselves. Mm-hmm. To me, being alone would be better than being abused any day. But again, they need to get help. Those kind of women, people, even a man, they need to get help. They need to seek counseling and professional therapy. Yeah. All
so
right.
those are some extreme, I would say extreme, because you're setting a boundary of like, if this does not change, this is harmful, I'm going to leave.
Right.
But what does it look like on a day-to-day basis, a generally healthy relationship, but a woman who just is a little bit controlling?
Yeah. Well, and I think, I was trying to think, okay, really, what is that about women? Because you hear more complaints about, men saying that
controlling my
wife,
time,
oh my
controlling
gosh.
my wallet, controlling,
And there is something about once you get married, for a woman, she thinks now that his time is her time, and she monitors how he's going to be her protector, provider. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's good. It's just something that comes over women. And I think a lot of times there's a scarcity conversation around money and how maybe your partner, your husband, spends money or controls the finances, his resources. And so I know from my husband and I, early on in our marriage, there was lots of conversations and arguments around money because some of the things that he valued, we have very similar values, but there were some things that he valued when it came to spending money that wasn't as big a value to me. Yeah. I value experiences. He values material things. Yeah. And so we have to have lots of conversations and it's a give and take. Sometimes, okay, you spend the money the way you want it. And then other times I get to spend it the way I want it. But if a woman doesn't trust or respect the man that she's with, she's going to try to control.
Yeah.
Okay. So if he's done things that he has not stepped up or shown up in a place where he's accountable, he's responsible with his resources, he has her well-being and the children's well-being in mind. That's even more important to him than what he wants at times. If she doesn't feel safe with him, and especially doesn't respect if he's let her down too many times, she is going to control. Again, to feel safe. That's what she's after. That's what it's rooted in. So I always tell men, if your wife, if you feel like she's become controlling or critical or complainy or naggy, stop and look her in the eye kindly and just, maybe even and hold her face in your hands. Look her in the eye and just say, honey, what is it that you need?
Yeah.
What is it you're afraid of? Because usually if she's trying to control or she's naggy or grumpy, there's something that's scaring her. And maybe she hasn't been able to express that. Just so look her in the eye and just say, what is it that you need? Tell me specifically what you need right now. And it may just be, I just need to feel like you're partnering with me, that we're a team, that I'm not in this all by myself. That's how it always was with me. I needed to know I wasn't alone in this marriage, raising 3 kids, that I had a teammate. They're like they always say, there's no I in team. Team means we together. We're doing life together. I needed to know that he was my partner. He was my backup. My husband. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever even been accused in your marriage of being
controlling and naggy? Never. Oh my goodness.
No, because you have the perfect marriage. After 13 years. Are you kidding?
I think something you and I talk about is telling yourself the truth. And sometimes as a woman, our emotions get so scattered or layered, or, by the time we really do get controlling and naggy and critical, we have kind of forgotten what the root of it is, because we've gone down this path of insecurity or fear. And luckily, my husband has had all this teaching growing up with you, that he'll stop. Like, whoa.
Let's reel it back.
Yeah, let's reel it back. What is the root of this? Yeah,
exactly.
what? And then,
what's really going on?
And even like some of the things I'll start to talk about, it's like, that's not really it. That's not really it. For me, usually it stems out of that scarcity conversation. It stems out of finances and money. And because we come to the table viewing that with different lenses on, that's a lot of times where it comes from me. But again, stopping, having the conversation, not letting it get too far down the line where we are having to have like a strong boundary conversation. Right. It's more of a respectful conversation, and just realizing and being vulnerable and saying, I just completely think about this absolutely different. Like, I grew up completely different, valuing this in a completely different way. And right now, maybe we agree to disagree, but respecting how each other comes to the table and values one another. It's just realizing the truth of the matter. Yeah. And like you've talked about before, for me, being okay receiving what he has to provide and offer in this season. Yeah. I cannot start to be critical, and I can start to be critical and ask for things that he's not able to or willing to provide in the season, because he's building for a future. And just because I want it right now doesn't mean I can have it right now.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that he doesn't love you. Because he's not
it doesn't mean he's not building towards that, and he doesn't hear me. It's just we're not there yet, or he's building for something even bigger.
Yeah, and I remember even my husband saying things like, I'd say, we really need bedroom furniture, and he'd say, we can't afford that right now, and I'd say, but listen, this is wrong and this is wrong. And I remember different times in our marriage, he'd say, stop, you're putting so much pressure on me. And that, I felt so bad. Like, I don't want to add pressure to him when he already has pressure from his job and trying to manage, everything with, raising kids and buying a home and keeping the cars up. And like, he's doing the best he can do. And when he would say that, that would make me step back, because I don't want to be a pressure. I want to be a place of peace for him. I want him to come home and feel at peace, not like he's in a pressure cooker every time he's at home. So, and it didn't mean that he didn't want to give me what I needed. He wanted to in time. It just wasn't going to be in my time. Yeah. And I had to sit back. And I think, if a man picks a woman that is a entitled little princess, that is used to getting everything that she wants, and she's going to throw a tantrum if he can't give her what she wants at that time, then that number one, that's on her. And number two is, why would you pick a woman like that? like you want, when a man picks a woman to marry, it's critical. The woman he marries is critical to his emotional health and well-being. We need to choose wisely our partners. And that being said, even though my husband maybe couldn't give me everything or provide everything I wanted in that moment, I did trust him, which is why I married him.
Yeah.
I trusted him.
Yeah.
I trusted that I could follow his lead. Why would you marry a man that you don't trust or that you don't respect? And I've always had a high respect for my husband also.
Yeah, I think some of the conversation around that is you see the potential in somebody or you see the star above their head. And I do think that's a real conversation. I remember even maybe my parents asking me that, like, what do you see in them or what the potential future? And I think we have to be real with ourselves before getting into that serious relationship of, if this person were not to change at all,
Right.
could I be with them for the rest of my life? If they were to stay in the same job, wear the same clothes, drive the same car, spend the same amount of money, date me the same way, vacation or not vacation, the same way if they were never to change, could I live with them for the rest of my life?
Right. And I tell
be realistic about
everybody that I ever do premarital counseling with, which I don't do that much anymore, but I used to do a lot more. And I would always say, especially to my daughters when they were getting married, if nothing ever changes, because women do have this propensity to see a man's potential for change.
Mm-hmm.
Once I get him to wear his hair right, once I get him to dress right, once I get him to pay his bills on time, once I get him to sell his motorcycle, once I get him, because again, she's looking for security and safety.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something in women, I think, that, remember, women were created to be a man's helpmate. So we are coming at it like we're helping them, okay?
Yeah.
But it could come
Enhancing
across that we're trying to change them or control them or we're nagging them. But again, we're trying to make our environment safe. And if I can get him to do everything that makes me feel safe, then we'll be okay. But when a man feels like you're trying to change him, it makes him feel like you're trying to control him. Yeah. And that's not attractive for a man. So ladies, if you're single and you're listening to this, or even if you're married and listening to this, just be aware. Just be aware of what our natural propensity is to do. To our feminine energy wants to fix up, enhance, beautify, help. But sometimes, my husband will say, okay, I don't need that much help. I'm like, but I'm your helpmate. I don't need that much help.
Yeah.
So we just have to sometimes back off a little bit, settle down.
If we can support and enhance who they truly are, I would say for the first 10 years of my marriage, every time Christian would get because he's a very strong communicator and can kind of be right there in your face and, get into people's business and speak very strongly. Yeah. And for the first 10 years, I'd be like, oh my gosh. Or I'd try to calm him or put a hand on him, that's enough, reel it back in.
Yes.
This is embarrassing to me, or this isn't the way I would talk. And once I'm not perfect and I still do that and I put my hand on his leg, but
I do too.
But honestly, I've really tried to just be like, that's who he is. And what it's done for him and his confidence. And even the people that he has started to surround himself with the last few years that speak into that and say that's a benefit.
Yeah.
The way you can see things in business, the way you can speak to people, that's actually your strength and not a weakness. Yeah. So I think even us as women, we need to be able to see some of these character things or value things as strengths in them just because they're different and make us feel uncomfortable. Right. It's really their superpower.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the things that I probably tried to change in my husband for 43 years is certain ways he would communicate or talk to people, or it seemed like maybe he was being boastful or braggadocious. So I have to tell you this quick little story. Yesterday, he's driving me to the airport. Okay, we're going on 44 years of marriage. We know each other really well. And we're just driving, and I said, that phone conversation you had the day before? He was talking to a man, and immediately, I could hear it because he's on speaker, and immediately the man gets on the phone and says hi, and immediately the other man starts telling my husband how much money he makes, he's going to pick up a big check, and all this, how great he's doing. And just out of the blue, he hasn't even talked to this guy in a year. And afterwards, my husband made a comment like, wow. And I said, yeah, didn't that kind of smack of like he really wanted your approval, or he I guess wanted your approval and why he's telling you all of that. And I said, but it kind of left a bad taste in your mouth. He goes, yeah, he didn't even talk about what I was calling to talk about. He just went right into how much money he makes. But I've seen my husband do the very same thing with people. And so I just put my hand on his leg. I said, did you notice, and how did you make that feel? And I know my husband got it. And he goes, wait, is this a training moment? And
You've been Danielle.
it was like, yeah. And I just started laughing so hard I was crying. And then he started laughing because I was trying to teach him something because I just want him to be his best.
He's a real life
right?
example. Yeah.
I want him to be his best self, but we had a really good laugh. And, if you can't laugh about it, you got to cry about it. So we'd rather laugh.
Yes.
Anyway,
that's so good.
But I don't think it ever ends.
Okay, so you mentioned when a woman starts to get naggy, critical, controlling, you suggested for men to stop, ask her what's going on,
Right.
ask her what's wrong. Is there more to that? Are there
Right.
more tools?
Yes, and part of that, I didn't mention this before, but part of that controlling for a woman, she will start to emasculate a man in order to disempower him. Because if she's trying to control, she's scared. Okay. So, and if she's afraid, and especially maybe of her partner, then she wants to even the playing field. And so she will criticize him, which is very emasculating. She might, and there's different ways we emasculate men. So we criticize, we try to change them, we compare them to other men. Well, her husband doesn't do it that way, and her husband got her this. Wow. So comparison, we will withhold sex in order to control them. Well, when you do it my way, then I'll come to bed, right? We withhold admiration and respect. All the withholds, we start to treat them like they're our child. That's very emasculating. And ladies, you have to remember, no healthy masculine man, grown man, wants to go to bed with his mom, okay? You're not his mom. You're his partner. You're his wife. You're his teammate. So men, when a woman gets that way, look her in the eye, ask her what she's afraid of, and be genuine, not in a mean way, not in an angry way, okay? Or she's going to pull back, but in a loving, tender way. Even hold her face in your hands and say, well, honey, what is it? Is something scaring you? How can I help? What do you need specifically? And then, guys, you got to listen. Really listen. If she starts going off about how she feels, the worst thing a man can do is say, well, that's dumb to feel that way. Well, that's not even true. That's not going to happen. Like, that's totally invalidating how she feels. You don't have to agree with her. Her story could even be wrong in your eyes. It didn't happen that way. For her, that's how she saw it. Yeah. That's how it happened. That was her experience. And all you're doing, you're not saying she's right. You're not agreeing. All you're doing is saying, okay, that was your perception. That's how it landed on you. Oh, that's how it made you feel. Okay, honey, I don't ever want you to feel afraid. I'll be careful. I'll be better. I'll change that up because I don't ever want you to feel afraid or that you're going to be in need or that there's lack in our lives. And whatever, gentlemen, whatever you have to do to just reassure her that it's okay and that her feelings are important to you. Even if you don't really get it, you're just saying, I care about how you feel. It doesn't make any sense to me. You don't have to say that. But if it doesn't, it might not make any sense to you. You might think her feelings are irrational, illogical, and irritating. Doesn't matter. By you just listening and saying, okay, I understand how you feel. Even if you don't, because you probably never will, because you're not a woman. But that way, sometimes you just listening solves the problem. You don't even need to come up with a solution, guys. Just you're listening and letting her process and get it out. And the fact that you stayed right there with her. You didn't go, ugh, and walk away. Makes her feel all better, makes her feel safe. Okay, he cares. He does care. Okay, I feel better now. I'm okay. And another reason women might get controlling and naggy is they might just be tired. They might just be tired and overwhelmed. And they just need a break.
Yeah.
And maybe they just need you to come and have their back and say, what can I do to support you? What can I do to help you get some rest? You need to go take a nap. Go take a 30-minute nap. I'll handle the children or whatever. Again, that's being her teammate. Okay. And sometimes she has to do that with you. Sometimes you have to do it with her. That's the give and the take, the push and the pull of any relationship. If you don't care, men, how she feels, if she so aggravates you and you're so irritated, are you loving her? Are you loving her right where she's at? And I know, women want unconditional love. Men want unconditional respect. I get that. The more loved she feels, the more respectful she will be.
Yeah.
And the more respectful she is, the more love he will feel. So, and it just goes around and around. But someone's got to start it. Someone has to be the stronger, the more mature to break that vicious cycle. Okay? So I hope this helps.
That's so good. Yes. I am not going to add any commentary because that is just all such huge nuggets of wisdom. And, we've had these conversations over years and it's helped our marriage significantly. And
sometimes we have to be reminded of stuff we already learned, right? Over and over and over.
Because it's not like, it's not like fear just disappears one day. If that's something you struggle with, then it's something you struggle with, or it's something to overcome, but things do pop up over time. Or the tired, like you said, I think that's another thing that happens to me is I'll start to get critical, whiny, naggy when I'm just tired. Exhausted. The kids haven't listened to me all day. Right. I've been cleaning up all sorts of things, broken glasses that keep dropping out of a 6-year-old's hands. And I'm just like had it up to here. And because women relate to their needs differently than men, we're self-sacrificing. It's really hard for me to say, I need a break. I need a few hours away. I need a massage.
Because you're thinking,
really
how
hard for me to ask for. Yes.
How can I go off and have a spa day?
Yes, because the story I'm telling myself, again, maybe it's not the truth, but the story I'm telling myself is, you can't handle this?
Yeah.
This is your job.
What's wrong with you?
He goes and does that all day. Why can't you handle this? Why would you need a break from this?
Right.
Or why do you need a break from your life?
Right.
So that's the story that plays in my mind. But when he comes in and he's like, I've got this. I've got dinner tonight. You go. I've set you an appointment, or you have dinner tonight, or you've got 2 hours, or here. Yeah. I've already made you an appointment for a massage. Like when he takes control and sees that, oh my gosh.
And I think that is such great leadership for a man. Because a lot of men will say, well, how do I lead? Or I don't know if I'm leading right. But him saying, you're not taking care of yourself. You need a break. Mm-hmm. I have this, honey. I made you an appointment. You're going to go get a massage. Because we sometimes don't take care of ourselves. And if you're taken care of, how much more energy and how much more fresh are you for your family? Yeah. So women have to take care of themselves, but we a lot of times put ourselves last. But that's a good man. That's a good leader saying, no, you are not going to be last. I will take up the slack. Yeah. And then there's times where you have to take up the slack for him. Yeah. He needs a massage.
And happy to, yes. Or whatever it is. But, and it's not always that. It's not always a massage, but even just the needs, we've talked about it before. Like he saw early on after I had young children, I need to move every day. I need an hour of AirPods in, exercise, moving my body. And he has, for our whole marriage, made that happen.
So good. So good.
Yeah. These are such good tools. I'm a testimony that it works and that you can have healthy relationships even when you're two very different people who come together with two very different backgrounds and ideas and don't even know what to talk about before you get married of what all your values are, and they come out in marriage. But these tools really do work to help you have the best relationship.
Yes.
And bring out the best in each other. Thank you so much for listening today, watching wherever you listen or watch your podcasts. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you know when a new episode is coming to you. Danielle is very active on her social media, so make sure you check her out at Danielle Hage.